We're
Are
live.
we
We're actually live.
live?
It's working.
I know.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us here on Nomads 50 Plus. My name is Chris Kalaboukis, and uh, it's my current mission to interview 1,000 digital nomads or midlife recalibrators or people who are into midlife recalibration. And today we have a very special guest. Why don't you tell us, introduce yourself and tell us your story?
Thank you. Well, I love that mission. It's so good. I'm Tracy Friedlander,
I'm only about
and
55 people into the mission, so I have a long way to go.
you've
I have
got a
like
long way,
900,
but
900
that's a
people.
really that's a really cool mission. And I
Thank
think
you.
so many 50s plus people are saying, this is the time. Like, we still have our health, we still have lots of ability to work, and why can't we make our lives exactly the way we want it now, instead of like in some future time where we don't really know what things are going to be like. So that's kind of what happened to me. I'm 52, and
No,
I
I don't believe it.
it's true,
I
I
see. I
know.
was thinking, I was looking at you and I'm going, I don't think she qualifies to be in anything 50 plus. It's like
Aw, you're too
impossible.
nice. Maybe I should press new beauty filter mode on this right
Is
here.
there actually a filter? I don't even know. I
It
don't
says it is covering your face. I want to try and cover it. Okay, it's gone now. But yeah, we moved to Mexico in 2020, and that's not something I was planning on doing, but
Wow. Before or after? I'm assuming just before COVID.
during,
Oh, during.
during,
Wow.
yeah. So, it's sort of like, life in the States, especially when you're tied to a job or tied to work that's like in a location, it ends up somehow consuming your life. And then you think
Mm,
like, someday, this is how we felt, like someday we'll be able to do these things, someday we'll be able to travel, someday we'll be able to do whatever we want. And that someday, we didn't really know. It was just like somewhere off in the future.
mm.
And it was the kind of work, my husband and I are trained classical musicians, and we met in an orchestra there. So
Wow. My son
yeah,
plays
it's kind of weird, right?
classical piano, and he actually is teaching right now, and he would love to get into performance, but it's really hard to make any money doing
It's so
performance, right?
hard. It's so hard. And I do feel like on paper, like I kind of made it. I wouldn't say I was at the top level, but I was making all my income that way. And so was my husband. And we, had a house, and we lived in a town, a city, Raleigh, North Carolina. And it was,
Nice.
yeah, and it was cool. But there were a lot of things that weren't great about it, like a lot of travel. You were always tied to whatever the orchestra schedule was. So you had to go out of town, work on the weekends. And when I became a mom, I didn't want to be driving out to Wilmington, North Carolina for 2 hours each way to play some pops concert. And so I realized, no, this is the time to start something. That was in 2016 when I was like getting that itch, like maybe a little before that, but 2016 is when I started it. And I was completely clueless about online anything,
Hmm.
at all. And I tried, I racked my brain, like, what can I talk about? And the only thing I could think of, because I was so new, and really at that time, you didn't really see that many people. I mean, you could see Gary Vee and some people like that talking about this stuff, like you can make money with your interests. But I didn't even know what my interests were, because I
Mm.
had been a musician for so long. Like, what am I going to talk about? My instrument, like. And so, but then I started to research what other people were doing that weren't, tied down to a job or a city or whatever. And they had created their own career. And I found out that there was a ton of musicians who did that. So I started a podcast, and I just started interviewing them. And I was a total noob. And back in 2016, like there was no such thing as like the Joe Rogan podcast and stuff. So podcasting was sort of an open space for sure, just
Oh
any
yeah.
kind of creator to do. Because you're a podcaster too, right? Or you
Yeah,
are currently.
I started in 2005. So
Oh
I'm like a
wow! So that's
really
even more.
original. I remember reading it in so I remember the Wired magazine. Remember Wired magazine
Yeah.
had a feature on podcasting. And I
Uh
said, "Well,
huh.
that looks interesting." This is in 2005. So a bunch of us in San Francisco Bay Area got together, and we had our first podcasters meetup, and a bunch of people who were podcasting. And I think we had about 20 people show up to that thing, and I think only maybe two other people are still podcasting or
Wow.
from that initial group. But it went through so many ups and downs. But
Yeah.
2016, it was like reestablished again. But in 2005, it was going to be like the new future of media, because we're like, oh, you mean anybody can create a radio show, right? And this is fantastic. And then of course YouTube came along and kind of completely flattened us, because everyone was going to video instead. But then podcasting slowly started to grow again. So I think you hit it at just the right sweet spot. And of course, having to do with music, podcasting is the perfect medium for what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there was never music on the podcast, but it was so cool to connect with musicians in that way, and especially people that I never would have talked to before, because I was in this other like sort of bubble where I just had my job. I showed up to work, I played in my section, I was in the back, nobody knew who I was. It wasn't like famous or glamorous, really. Like, I didn't think so anyway. Like
What do you play?
French horn.
French horn. Wow,
Yeah,
that is
so
cool.
it's a cool instrument. It's really fun to play. It takes a lot of work to stay in shape. You know, like if you stop practicing for a couple days, you gotta start from scratch. Like it's like more work than like what you get paid financially. So
Yeah.
but it becomes like a thing. Well, in some most cases, I think, especially considering how much people make. You know, they send out one email and they make $20,000 on a launch or something. And you read that and you go, "What?" You know,
I'm in
my
the wrong
first,
business.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
musicians, it's amazing how physical it
It's
is.
very
Like
physical.
it's people think it's more mental. I mean, you're sitting at a piano and you're just sitting there and only moving your hands or whatever. But it's incredibly physical. I mean, all of the muscles that
Yes.
have to be engaged,
And the
and
horn is very
it's
heavy. It's
yeah,
very
I can
heavy. It
imagine.
weighs like at least 15 pounds, I think. And I remember as I got older into my 40s, um, it was like I was starting to get back pain. You know, I was like, this is hard sitting in an orchestra, and plus it's off center, so you're always twisting. You've got tight muscles, and then I started working out and lifting weights, and I was like, whoa, this just got so easier. Why
Mm,
didn't anyone tell me that? You know,
yeah.
so it was crazy, but. And there's some things I miss, but then when I think about the work I'd have to do just to play a concert, I'm like, oh, I'm much more into what I'm doing now, which is like, growing my Substack, helping other people reinvent so that they can do what they want to do. And I mean, that was kind of my path. But like we came to Mexico at that time during COVID, and it was so interesting because since I was talking, eventually, after I was podcasting for so long, I was talking essentially to other musicians, like, hey, come with me, come to the other side where you can create a life of freedom, And they were
Nice.
mostly, my audience was like, oh, that's cool. But it wasn't like where, it wasn't like you're getting the signals of people going, oh my God, yeah. A handful of people here and there going, yeah, that's a good idea. I dig that. And the podcast was growing gradually. But then COVID hit, and suddenly nobody could play on the stage and nobody could teach in person. And they
Hmm.
all wanted to know, how do I grow an audience online? How do I use Zoom to And so I filled up cohorts like repeatedly over and over and over, teaching people how to say what they, stuff about their expertise online, how to write online so that people pay attention. And it was really cool because it was like in an instant, everything took off. And then
No, not
we,
specifically musicians. You moved beyond just musicians, or
I
so you were
have
talking
now,
about.
I have
Okay.
now. Yeah.
So at
But
the
back,
time, it was helping musicians get online. So
yeah,
that was your niche at the time because you were
that was my
focused on talking
niche.
to them. Yeah.
And it was too tiny of a niche. And that's like, if I could talk niche all day, because you never want to do two things. You don't want to micro niche yourself down to the point where you're only talking to like 37-year-old moms who have twins or something. It's like, no, that's so small. And then the second thing is you don't want to ever be convincing people. You don't be like, oh, I discovered the best thing ever. I discovered hot yoga with goats. And you're like, okay, you have to try hot yoga with goats on top of you while you're doing downward facing dog. You have to do like, and you're like over there talking to like the Bikram people. Well, they like Bikram. They're good.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, come over here, do the hot yoga. It's like, or maybe
With
those are the
goats.
same thing
Don't
with
forget the goats.
goats.
You can't forget the goats. No, you're absolutely right, because I think that's what ends up happening is that and I believe, see, the thing about niches I think is interesting is that it's part of what humans do and what algorithms do is
Yeah.
that whenever you first, it's like we are super complicated as human beings. We have a
Yeah.
lot of facets, right? But
Yeah.
when you meet somebody for the first time, you want to know, you know, what are you known for? What are you like? Who are you? They want your
Yeah.
5-second elevator pitch of who you are. And a lot of times, especially in the States, we use our jobs, right? We say, oh, I'm
Right.
the director of so and so at this company, or so they'll know exactly what to do with you. And I think it's kind of like a holdover from the days when we were all wandering the savannah going, is this person a threat? Is this not? Is this
Right.
person a threat? Is this person not a threat? Okay, this person's a threat, so I'm going to run away. But this
Yeah.
person's not a threat. I'm going to hang out with them. So it's kind of like an evolution of that. So we want a
Yeah.
simple explanation of what people are. And I think that's why everyone keeps talking about niche, 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 because the algorithm needs to figure out where to put you in front of. Because if you're too complicated, the algorithm's like, okay, now he's talking about goat yoga. Now he's talking about startups and AI. It's kind of like, okay, that's too confusing for me. Just
Yeah.
focus on the goat yoga. At least I'll know who to show you to, right? Because other people who are interested in goats and yoga, might see that. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's actually useful to start with a niche, but once you get to a certain size of audience, then you can expand beyond that niche, because
Yes.
all these people know you already.
Exactly. You nailed it. And one of the things I think about, especially on Substack, it's kind of really easy to figure this out because you have a publication. That's your that's the stuff that you tell a certain type of person. But you
Yep.
also have your profile, which is just you. So you can
Yep.
show up and be yourself. But so you have to connect with people, but you shouldn't be too random there. It's like there's an art form. Like you have to talk to your people, and it can be like today I posted about being a coffee snob and we were
Yeah.
interacting in that. But and that doesn't
I've
have
got
a
my
whole
blue
lot
bottle right here.
and it doesn't have a whole lot to do with what I teach and what I want to sell. But it still connects with people who are like me. And so
Yeah.
that's a cool thing. But if I only did that, then people be like, does she sell coffee beans? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so you can't just only talk about like one random thing. And I think notes are for like getting an emotional reaction to somebody, finding the stuff they're equally mad about as you, or equally excited about as you, or equally frustrated with as you are. And then you go there, and then they go, oh, well, what does she write about? What does he write about? What's in his post? And then you go and see, oh, this is themed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
now I get
So
it. Okay, this is Nomads
yeah.
50 plus. That's me, right? Or that's
Yeah.
what I aspire to be.
I do that
So
exact thing. I have the niche newsletters, but when I go online and put notes in, it's just whatever I happen to be. In fact, the prompt is "What's on your mind?" So yes, you're getting what's on my mind when I put it
yeah,
out there, and
right.
it's almost like this is where my personality can show. This is where you can show your
Yeah.
personality in your notes, but then you can stay niche in your posts. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So you moved to Mexico and you started
Yes.
drawing people to Mexico. You said, "Hey, come. This is awesome here."
Yes.
Like,
Well, for a second, I thought maybe that's what my thing can be. Because when I left musicians
oh, the
behind,
moving to Mexico thing. So
yeah,
you're
for a
pivoting.
second, because I mean, I moved here, and then I was like, okay, this is awesome. And talking to musicians over and over and feeling like I had to convince them all the time was getting old for me. I felt like I was
Mm,
always complaining about the same things, always nagging them about the same things. I wanted people to be like on my side, not like to have to convince them. So I was like, I think I niched myself into a corner. So
yeah.
I let it go. But at that point, I was, instead of just thinking, okay, I can just widen it and stop talking about the musicians and keep talking about the same thing, because what I talk about now is basically what I was talking about then. But I didn't see that back then. And so then I was like, okay, now what? And I was just struggling. And then I thought, well, maybe I should just cancel it all and do copywriting. I actually wrote about that in my post today.
Oh
Like, maybe
man.
I should just go and be a copywriter. And then that didn't feel right. And then I was like, maybe I should talk about moving to Mexico. And then I started to post about that a little bit. But then I started, like, when you start to experiment, you see the stuff that you don't really want to do. Like, for me, I love to talk about like my beautiful um, weather and the view and stuff, but I don't want to talk about the logistics of like going to the consulate and like
Yeah.
filling out the paperwork. I'm like, ugh, boring. I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But that's what I would have to talk about if that was my niche.
Yeah. No,
So I
I'm
let,
with you exactly, because there's so many. In fact, in the niche I'm in, there's so many other newsletters and publications and books that talk about the logistics and the
yeah,
specific tactics that you need to use. And I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to be more inspirational, because what I'm trying to do is get people who aspire to it to
yes,
understand what the life is like. And then once they've decided, oh yes, I want to try that, then they can get into the details and logistics. There's plenty of other people who do that kind of stuff. And I just want to inspire people to get into the life, or get over those barriers to get into it. So
yeah. And then
like
maybe
so
you
you
could,
you found your niche. Sounds
yeah.
like.
Well, now I have. Yeah. Now, well, one second, just about that. Like, now that you're growing that list, but you don't want to talk about the details, but maybe you connect with people who do, and you could be an affiliate for them, or you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, there's like a lot of there's a lot of
I don't know.
potential
I
there.
have a big one coming up on Monday. We're talking about getting rid of your stuff if you want to start moving,
Uh-huh.
because that is one of
That's
the
a big one.
biggest that's one of the biggest issues people have. Like outside of money, I think the first issue they have is how am I going to fund my travels, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now that I figured out how I'm going to fund my travels, it's like, what am I going to do with this,
House full of
four
stuff.
thousand square foot house full of stuff
Yep.
if I want to be, a backpacker in Nepal. So
Yeah.
how do you go from here to there? That's a huge thing. So I am starting to go down those particular paths for specific tactics.
And that specificity will draw in a crowd too,
Yeah,
because people do love specificity.
yeah,
That's the other hard part about niching that people don't get. It's like, yeah, you have to be specific, but also you have to be broad, and that's why everyone gets confused. That's why I was confused for like 3 years. Damn.
well, but what you did was you just kept trying different things to see what would
Yes.
hit, because there's a lot of people who sort of sit back and go, well, I'm going to learn about this, I'm going to learn about this, I'm going to learn about this, and then never do anything. So that it's almost like a startup in product market fit. It's like, unless you launch it and get it out there and see what people say, and you get feedback and you go, oh, this is going this way, this is going that way, so then you can decide
Exactly.
what to do.
You get feedback from the people that actually pay attention. That's the
Yep,
best part. You can't create it in a vacuum and then launch it and be like, I'm here. You know, I think
exactly.
that's the big promise that like all these like course creator gurus are like, all you have to do is make it. And then you get inside the course and they're like, launch it to your list. And people are like, what list? I don't have a list, you know?
Oh, I love those ones where
So
it goes, they're like, I think I bought one of those ones where the very first thing it said, okay, send this to your list. I'm like, I don't have a list. It's like,
you skipped a lot of steps.
can you go to step 0, whereas like, you don't have a list? Like, how do I start? They
I
say, well,
know.
create something so that you can create a list. I'm like, well, okay, it's like a chicken and an egg. Like, what do I do
Uh-huh.
first, right?
Yeah. But that's not sexy to sell. So don't
No.
talk about it. Just
Yeah,
sell
yeah,
the like
exactly.
dream of making millions of dollars, you
That's right.
know. So annoying. So
Sitting on the
so
beach
yeah.
with your laptop and with the beautiful view behind, right?
Yeah, just typing I sent an email, I made $40,000. You should do it too. It's so great.
Happens every day.
I know. And you know what's funny? So many people are sick of that whenever I post a note about anti-guru, like selling the promise without the details, whatever, they go totally crazy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they always go viral, those posts.
Yeah.
So not, I
Well,
mean,
there's just
viral for
so
me.
many, but there's so many out there, and there's nothing behind it. And a lot of
Right.
times it's kind of robotic. There's plenty of accounts who are just so robotic. Like if you look at their notes in order, it's like this is the same thing said 4 or 5 different times over and over again. And I still find it interesting that people still kind of fall for it, because we should all
Yeah.
have, you know, BS detectors to make sure that, wait a second, is this legit or is it
Yeah.
not legit, right? But
Exactly.
that's the thing about the gurus, is that I'm totally convinced that the real high-end gurus, they don't care if you actually are successful. They just want to sell more of their stuff, right?
Yes.
Selling more of their stuff is the end result, not, I want you specifically, person who's buying and reading my stuff and taking my courses, to be successful.
I
And I
know,
think
I hate that. And
that's
this their
the
social proof is
differentiator.
that they sold it,
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
that someone was
exactly.
successful with it.
Exactly. Like, where's Anthony Robbins? Anthony Robbins must have millions of people who've used his programs and were successful. Where are they? Why isn't he trotting them out? Right?
I know.
Anyway,
I
sorry,
know. Oh my
tangent.
gosh. Tangent. I know. So it's true. It's like when you post stuff like that, it can take off because so many people have had that experience.
Yep.
So I eventually found my way back to Substack after quitting once and throwing the whole thing away and then starting
No,
fresh.
you
Yeah,
left? This is the best place on earth. What are you talking about?
I know, but I was so confused. So I canceled it and I like deleted it. And then I joined again and I ended up changing my name a couple of times. And when I was first starting, I was talking about podcasting because I saw a like a Dan Co post that was like, it's easy, just teach what you did. And so I was like, well, I could teach podcasting, and I started doing that for like all of 2024. I was talking about that. Wait, no,
Oh, nice.
2025. 2025. And a handful of people were like, yeah, teach me. That's good. And I got some clients and I started talking about it. But kind of, I noticed that people were sort of like, oh, podcasting is a lot of work. I don't know. And so it just wasn't like really hitting. It wasn't taking off like I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And so,
And
so I,
it's a very crowded space now, people teaching people how to podcast.
Yeah, it
I
was
think.
it's pretty
Yeah.
crowded, and a lot of the super successful people started in like 2010,
Oh yeah,
2013.
years and years and years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like when I started getting into that, I was like, how can I teach what I did in 2016 in 2025 and it be totally correct? It's not.
It's
It's not.
completely different. The way I podcast is completely different. How if I were to start again today, I would do it in a completely different way from the way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So it's completely different for everybody, and you have to take that into account. It's like, yes, you know this stuff, but this is how you've been doing it, and it works great for you. It may not work perfectly
Yeah.
for anybody else
And
or
I
any new
started
person.
I was starting to get into that convincing territory. I started to
Yes,
feel myself going, oh, trying to convince someone to start a podcast. I want to find a niche where people are already convinced and they look to me
yes,
for help on the thing they're already convinced about. And so when
exactly.
I just pivoted a little, because I had been a writer as well as a podcaster, I started talking about writing. I started talking about Substack writing. I started talking about notes. Hey, Mac. Mac is here. And he is one of the people that supported me right from the start and
Excellent.
told me to keep going and not quit even when I was like, oh, this just
Yes,
isn't
never
working.
quit, even when it doesn't. Even when it doesn't.
I
You don't
never should
feel
have
right.
quit that first time. Exactly. Don't quit if you're hearing this right now. Don't
That's
quit.
right.
If you're frustrated, it may be time for a pivot, and that's okay. You can change your name. And if it says warning, it's going to break the backlinks, be like, who cares? Break the
Yeah. How many
backlinks.
people are? How many people link
Nobody's
to you
backlink.
anyway?
Yeah, like if you have 20 subscribers, no one knows about the backlinks. It doesn't
That's
matter.
right.
Just start over. It's okay. Everything's fine. Don't listen to that. So then when it was like night and day when I started, because it was like people are on Substack and they want to figure out how to write here. And so, I mean, I don't want to be like one of those people who's like, because when I joined Threads, everyone that I saw was like, here's how to grow on Threads. And I was like, oh, you know how to grow on Threads because you're talking about growing on Threads. I don't want to be like that because I know that's a thing. And like, I'm
Yeah.
definitely in a place where people are paying attention to that. Different niches are going to have a different level of success. If you're not talking about Substack, then it's going to look different. But I see so many people being successful talking about things similar to this, which I call riding the wave, like the wave of people in front of you on this platform. There's a wave of people that care about specific things. Right now, people 50s plus are really paying attention to Substack. So you're in the right place. I have
Thank you. I
yeah,
hope
you are.
so.
I mean, I think you are. I mean, your numbers show it. And, I have a subscriber and actually a friend who lives in my town. And we figured out that we live in the same town. She was like, just straight up the road. And we met for
Nice.
lunch. Her name is Karen Blue. She goes by Blue on Substack. And
Oh
she
yeah,
talks
I've
about
seen
like,
her.
yeah, she talks about reinvention and stuff and reinvention. And she's in her 80s. So like that gets attention and people want to feel good about that your life isn't over when you're in your
Oh yeah.
70s
I
and your
mean, I
80s and
think
stuff.
I think, and I talked about this before. It's like longevity. I mean, we have to readjust how long we think we're going to be around, because I think we're in the
Yes.
age where we're going to be 100, we're going to be 120. We're going to
Oh my
stretch it out as
God.
far as we can. So if you think about it, where you are right now, you could literally be in midlife. You could have like the same
Other
life that you've
life.
already had
I
stretching out
just
in
met
front of
someone who
you.
has a grandmother who's 104.
Yeah,
Literally just met that
yeah, yeah,
woman.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I go, you
exactly.
still have a grandmother? Like, she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's 104. I was like, what? And one of my friends told me that one of my high school colleagues, someone from my high school that I kind of hung out with that I know, is retiring this year. I'm like, what? What? What is she gonna do?
We shouldn't call it retirement, right?
No.
It's just a pivot. It's just going from one thing to another. and,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like, retiring at 65. Now you could have 40, 50 years
How are you
ahead
gonna
of you.
support yourself?
Exactly.
Exactly.
You can't just,
Do you know
there
what?
might not be enough money left. Who knows?
I think us cool Gen Xers are really changing the world because
Yeah.
we get it. We really get it. We're cool, Chris. I
Yeah.
mean, I really think so.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what's happening. And of course,
Yeah.
pivoting to writing is perfect, because that's what Substack's all about. Substack was originally a platform for writers, and there's still lots and lots and lots of writers on the platform. So it was the perfect pivot. Like, when did you realize it was the
Yes.
perfect pivot?
Um, as soon as stuff started to resonate with people and I started to use notes a lot heavier
Yeah.
and like interact with people and start conversations and meet friends, like I feel like I have a group of real friends on Substack.
Oh yeah, same here.
It's crazy. And like fine like when I wake up in the morning and I like look forward to starting and making content, I know that I'm in the right place. So I just hope that Substack stays cool for as long as possible because I never felt like that about Instagram. You know, I
Mm.
always felt like it was a grind. I always felt like, oh, especially I think because of the images. Because I always felt like because when I was using it, it was very image heavy. You could post an image and a character, like it had to be 2,200 characters. I could never fit 2,200. I'm like a long form person. And so I was always struggling and trying to tweak things and try to get into it. And it never would work. And then the images were stressful because it's like, oh, do I have to go and get professional photography? Like, what do I have to? And I did that a couple of times and that worked for a while, but then it was suddenly like reels, reels, reels. Everything has to be reels. And I was like,
Yeah,
no.
it's like I like to say it's like a treadmill that is a little goes a little faster than comfortable, right? Because you know how when you're walking on a treadmill, you know if you can go at 1 mile an hour, that's great, but it's set a little too fast for all of us, and we all have to just run, 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 run to keep going.
Yeah.
And that was so refreshing about Substack is that what it reminds me of is I don't know if you were on Twitter this far back, but I was on Twitter in 2008 and
No, not
when
really.
it first launched, and it was a lot like Substack is today. The notes, just the notes portion of it. You know, people were having great conversations. People were talking to each other. There were no trolls. There were no bots. There was
It was
none of that junk
nice.
happening. And it was just refreshing to be able to connect with anybody in the world in any way because they had that SMS connection too. So you didn't even need a computer. You could have just like texted into it, and everybody it was you
Oh,
know
that's
everybody
so
got the
interesting.
communication. It was great, and of course it was so you'd hate this if you're a long form person. It was restricted to 160 characters, so you had to be brief. Like
Yeah.
everything that you put out there was brief, and I love that particular culture in that moment. Of course, it's very different now, but
Yeah. And
subset.
they
So
have
the
long,
notes.
you can do long there too now,
Oh,
I
you can do
think.
everything,
Yeah.
anything, everything over there, but
Yeah.
it's a kind of a dumpster fire. I try to stay away from it as much
I
as
know.
possible. But here, it just gives me that same feeling. Notes is a lot like that today, but it's better because you don't have to feel like you're running on a treadmill because you could go in, put a bunch of notes out there, and they last forever. They have a really long shelf life. So I
Yes.
think they've done a really good job of building this platform in a way that's very humane for everybody who's on it. And I just hope that it doesn't change to the point where it starts acting like all those other social networks, because then it's kind of like, okay, no, then we got to go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and the next one.
I
And Mac
know.
agrees. Mac agrees. He remembers Twitter from 07, 08. It was great. I remember at one point I was talking with somebody who said, "Hey, we should just use this instead of email. Like we communicate with like 160 character tweets to each other." I mean,
Yeah. I remember seeing Gary Vee talk about Twitter back then and being like, well, it wasn't that long ago because I only found Gary in like 2016 or something. But I remember him talking about Twitter and how he would be like, you know, text me, here's my phone number. Like he was like, and I think he was talking about wine too back there. Or like at the time he was talking about, you know, he'd talk
see,
about like a
like
Cabernet or
talking
something.
about, I think that was his original thing, was talking
Yeah,
about
it
wine,
was.
right? And then pivoting to wherever he is
I
now.
really
So
like his story. And you know, now he's so big that, you know, sort of like, oh yeah, yeah, blah blah, Gary Vee. But he started something in an interest area and then he grew it.
yeah, same thing.
Shows you, you
There was
know?
a niche, grew the niche, and then pivoted. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is that if you ever go back to any of these gurus, if you go back to their very first thing, then it's very different from what they're doing
Yes.
today. And they're much more human, they're much more relatable. Like if you,
Yep.
especially Tony Robbins, you go back to his first book, he basically put everything in that one book. Like
Really.
every single thing that he talks about is packed into that one book. Because think about it, you're a struggling author, you're thinking, this might be my only book. This might
Uh-huh.
be the only thing I'm ever going to write. So I'm just going to pack everything in and see what happens. So he packed everything in, and it worked. Like it took off, and he said, oh crap, now I got to basically say the same thing 17 different ways and brand it so it's mine, specifically mine, and
Yeah.
yada yada yada, and then it go to that point. So it's kind of like George Lucas in Star Wars, right? I mean, he never thought it was going to take off the way it took off, and then it's like, oh man, now I got to do
Now I
9
have to,
movies?
yeah, now I just should do prequels because I can't do anything after this. Oh my
Exactly.
God, the Calm Traveler said Gary Vee worked in his father's wine store here in Jersey.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that why he started off in wines? That's
Yep. And
cool.
I remember his stories of like him saying that some woman ordered like a case of white Zinfandel. And Gary Vee knows so much about wine and he would never like recommend a white Zinfandel if it was the last thing to drink on earth. But
Yeah, who drinks that? I mean, seriously.
ugh, I know. But he took that like it didn't make the shipment or something. And she called the store and said, like, I'm not going to have this for Christmas Eve or something. And he tells the story about how he put it in his car and drove up and hand
Nice.
delivered it. And she was like, thanks. And she slammed the door.
Oh, these white Zinfandel drinkers. I don't
These
know.
white Zinfandel, I know. I worked in a lot of restaurants over the years. The white Zinfandel ladies, they always
Oh,
put ice
yes.
cubes in it.
Oh,
They
so you were in
do.
food service too? That is the hardest
Yes.
job ever. See, I think that's another thing. It's like I think everyone should be an entrepreneur at some point in their life so they can understand what that's like. And I think everybody should work in food service at some
Yes.
point in their life so they can
Completely
understand what that's
agree.
like.
Completely agree. A
Because it's
hundred
one of the
percent.
hardest jobs on the
I
planet.
have said that so many times, like it should be mandatory. Like some countries have like military is like their
Yes.
mandatory thing. I
Yeah.
think they should just work in a restaurant for 6
I'm
months.
with you.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
it
you learn a lot, and one of the things that I love people, but also I don't like. You know what I mean? Like, and when you're waiting on
depends
people,
on the
you really
day.
learn. Yeah, you really learn a lot about people, and I have so many funny stories about it. But I remember, just like my whole goal was to like bring every I want to solve all their problems before they ask for it so no one has to
Of
ask me
course.
for anything. So I would,
Good luck.
I would never go to a table unless I already had water in my hand because I knew they're going to ask for water and I would never like they order burgers, of course they want ketchup and mustard. I'm not going to like walk away and not have
Proactive.
ketchup.
Smart.
Like yeah, and so it would be funny because people would be like, "Can I have water?" And then they would see what they were in my hands. Do you have the ketchup and mustard? I'm like,
There it
"It's right
is.
there." But I did work in a biker bar that unfortunately closed in Chicago. I was the only person that worked there that didn't have any tattoos. Everyone
Oh,
else was
wow.
like sleeves, neck tattoos, and I was like a musician like going to the downtown to play my horn, but like at the off times I was slinging
Well,
burgers
yeah.
and beers and stuff.
Well, yeah. As an
And
artist, you have to do that, right? It's kind of like,
yeah,
and that's, sorry, go ahead. Finish your story.
I was just gonna say, like, the fun thing about that job was that you sort of had permission to be rude a little bit because it was a biker bar. You're like badass and stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so people like I would be rude and people would think it was funny. And I was like, this is the best job ever. So like
If you're
we
going
would
to be
have this
working in food service, that is where you want to work.
right? That's what you want to do. So we had this beer special on Tuesdays. It was $2.50 for any bottle of beer, like any beer.
Wow.
And we had 200 beers, and people would come in and they would look at the menu and they would look at it and they would look at it and they would look at it. And like I have a full section and tables with 15 people because everyone comes for the beer special after work. And like I'm like, oh, God. And then they would go Bud Light, and I would go, are you kidding? You have all those choices and you're choosing Bud Light. I'm like, okay. And then I
You're
would, and
spoiled
then
for
that,
choice.
and they would drink so much that I would be like, look, I have to go all the way downstairs to get your beer. So they would be like halfway. I'm like, I know you want another beer because you're going to save me a trip. So I don't come back when it's done and then have to go. I'm just bringing you a beer. Like, just tell them what to do.
Here, have
Just
two.
order the beer.
Just bring two anyway.
Just take two. So I don't want to go up and down the stairs again.
But that's the thing. It's like when you're an artist. See, that's the thing that bugs me is like we haven't figured this out yet. But people who have to do really burdensome work get paid a lot of money. Like if you're doing like an Excel spreadsheet, like tiny detailed work or whatever, something that AI could probably do better. They get paid a lot of money. And then you have people who create art, create music, create writing, create this beautiful stuff that uplifts you and touches your emotions. And we go, oh, hey, here's a couple pennies, or I
I
want it for free.
know. Why
And it's
is
like,
that?
why are all artists so poor? I mean, we shouldn't be
Yeah.
poor, right? I mean,
Right. Oh my gosh. So many people in the comments saying they worked in restaurants and stuff.
oh yeah, see, good.
Emmett thinks it's funny
Like
that I worked in
everyone
a
has to
biker
work in a
bar.
restaurant.
And Emmett doesn't have tattoos either. Yeah, I stuck out. I stuck with my guns. I was like,
Good.
if I can't decide, if I can't like the same pair of shoes for a year, how am I going to decide on a
Well, see,
tattoo?
now you can go to Japan and go to a hot spring because tattoos are frowned upon in hot
Oh,
springs. So
oh,
people with
really?
tattoos have to put like bandages on them and some stuff like that to avert it. And some people are completely banned from some hot springs in Japan if you have a tattoo.
I
So
didn't
if you
know
have
that.
no tattoos, you're good. So
Okay,
have you
well,
been
that's
yet?
I've been in Japan, but a really long. When I was in youth orchestra when I was 18, the orchestra went to Japan, and I got to go. And
Nice.
unfortunately, I didn't like sushi back then, so that's a waste. So now I have to go again, and my daughter really wants to go to Japan. She's like
Oh,
really
you have to
asking about
go.
that. So
It's
yeah, I
amazing.
really want to go. Yeah, have you been recently?
Not last year, but the year before. We went for 3 weeks. It was incredible. I've wanted to
Oh,
go for such a long time, and I'm telling my wife afterwards of like, okay, we're coming back every year, right? Yeah,
yeah.
because there's so much we haven't seen yet. And it's like, well, maybe next year.
The food culture is so amazing there,
Oh,
right?
incredible. And if you like eating all the time, like 24/7, which I
You
do, and it
can.
doesn't help anything, but it's so good.
Did you find the language barrier hard?
You know what? I tried speaking Japanese, and everyone
Uh-huh.
looked at me like I had lost my mind. So, no, it was okay.
That's hard.
It wasn't
But
bad.
you know what? Where do you live now? Because you,
San Jose.
okay, so you're not living outside the country,
No, not at the moment.
but have you before?
Uh, well, I'm originally from Canada, actually. I came down here.
I heard you say, oh,
Yeah. So I came down here in '98, and
uh-huh.
I've been here for about 30 years. But it's like I'm an aspiring digital nomad. I do it for a couple of months at a time. So let's go to Greece, Japan, etc.
Awesome. Yeah,
And I'm planning for the day when we can actually like become a little more nomadic. I mean, we'll probably still have a home base, but we'll be doing a lot more traveling than we're doing right now.
that's
So
cool.
that's
That's
are
really
you do
cool.
you do a lot of traveling, or are you mostly where you are?
We're pretty much, I mean, because we have a daughter in high school, so, or almost high school. So,
Kids.
yeah, so we stay around. But I mean, traveling around Mexico, like just domestic travel here is so easy. It's nice because, 1 hour flight, 2 hour flight, I can get to Mexico City in a 45-minute flight, and that's super fun to go there. There's so much good food, so much culture, so much museums and history and neighborhoods, and it's just so cool. And we've been here for 6 years, so I speak Spanish.
Yeah, I
I
was going to ask you about the language issue. So you're fine. Were you able to do it well when you first started, or?
so I took 4 years in high school, and of course that was like so many years ago. So when I got here, I was like, like as far as when people talk to me. But I worked really hard at it, and it all came back. Plus, like the vocabulary that I learned, and some of the, like, I remembered a lot of the kind of, patterns and things that you need to know. And then the rest has just come from immersion. Even though I wish I spoke Spanish more, because of course I speak English at home, but I have some friendships completely in Spanish. It's really cool.
Oh, that's excellent.
And I'm always like, I can't believe I can understand this.
Yeah,
Like I
I love
still
it.
don't even really believe that I can do it. It's weird. It's
It's
weird.
funny because some people just stay within their expat communities and they don't really
Yeah,
learn
that's
the language.
sad.
I mean, that happens to me sometimes when I'm in Greece, and I go with a big group of people from US or Canada, and I'm like, okay, I want to speak Greek. Like, go away,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I can start talking to other
So you
people.
speak Greek. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my I had to spend like 3 or 4 years, 5 years in Greek school when I was a teenager, and I kept swearing to my parents, I don't want to do this. Nobody wants to do this. And now thank God they
So
did it.
glad.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad that they did that. But Greek was one of the harder languages to pick up.
It's
So,
a whole other alphabet and everything. I
oh
can't
yeah,
imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nuts. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
I would say Spanish, there's easy things about it, and then there's really hard things about it. It's like you can't, it's so funny because my husband will be like, well, English has better words because blah. And I'll be like, well, you can't just make these blanket statements, because then you look at another example and it's like Spanish has, like, sometimes I'll think of a Spanish word. I'm like, but what's the English word? But it doesn't have the same feeling. It doesn't
Yeah.
have that, like,
It's the same in every language.
something.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
words that there's no way you can translate them. It's impossible to translate them to English. So you come up with an approximation and you're like, well, this is not even quite right. And it doesn't have that same emotional feel and stuff like that. So the
Yeah.
other thing I wanted to ask you was, so you've got your blog, is that what's funding your travels, or do you always also do music and other things?
Yeah, we both have income coming in. My husband teaches violin online. So he's got
Oh,
a full
nice.
studio of violinists and he teaches online. He's building out his digital kind of offers, but he's been teaching online since COVID and a lot of people really like it, especially because he has clients from like all over the world. He has students in Germany, a couple of students in
Nice.
Germany. He's had Australian students. He has, most of them are in the States. He has a student from Puerto Rico and he's just built up his online presence and I've helped him a little because he's more of a like I play this instrument, like that's what I do, so I've had to like come to the computer side of things and he really doesn't love tech but he's learned a lot and so now he's like embracing kind of the personality driven positioning because he's an
Right.
athlete too and like what we were talking about earlier how playing an instrument is very physical and so he
Yes.
talks a lot about how that matters because especially if you're auditioning and you get so nervous like if you're in shape you're going to do so much better in an audition setting than if you're like struggling to breathe even if you walk up a hill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
so he infuses a lot of that into that. He just launched a group program called the Violin Gym, which I
Nice.
think is really a cool name because it is like it's an athletic thing plus it's the instrument and it's developing. But yeah, he has a full studio, and then this has been my how I'm earning money too. But it's kind of still at the beginning stages because I was flailing for for a while.
Pivoting. You were pivoting. You
Pivoting.
were
Yeah, that's a
pivoting
better word. That's a
until you
better word.
decided. So what platform does he use, if you don't mind me asking? Did you build your own, or does he use
I
his
wish I would love
okay.
to build our own. We're right now we're using Course Creator 360. Have you ever heard
Mm-hmm.
of it? And
Mm-mm.
it's okay. I mean, it's sort of one of those all inclusive things that you can make funnels and websites, and you can have a
Like Kajabi or
membership.
School or
It's a
something like
little bit
that?
like that. It's a little
Yeah.
bit like that. You can send emails from it. He likes that there's like a membership section, so he doesn't have to like host something on a Facebook group or School as an example. But it's like $99 a month, and it only has the community. Like it doesn't have
Yeah.
much other functionality. So this one has those functionalities plus a lot of other things. It has the cart, like you connect Stripe, of course, but you can create like payment plans and all kinds of things
Oh,
through
that's
it. So
interesting.
it
I never heard of
works.
that one. Is it relatively new, or has
I
it been around for a
think
while?
the people that launched it aren't new to creating courses, but I think it hasn't been around that long. But what's really good about it, I don't really want to sound like a commercial because I don't like I'm not like, oh my god, it's the best thing ever. There's definitely problems with it, but it does have good support. Like if you're struggling, which I've been like, oh tech, I'm throwing out my computer out the window. Like that's a lot how I feel because I help them with a lot of the setup. You can get someone on chat right away and they help you. So
Oh,
that's
that's
pretty
excellent.
that's pretty cool about
That's
it.
cool.
So yeah.
And then, so what about the transition from healthcare, like the American healthcare to Mexican healthcare? I mean,
Yeah, that's a
can you
good
talk about that a
question.
bit?
Yeah, so I almost said gracias a Dios. We don't have any health problems, besides,
That's good.
so that's
Keep
good.
keep it that way.
Yes, and what I love about Mexico is that you can do a lot of alternative stuff, which is what I like for much more affordable. So like stuff that some 50s plus people might be getting into, like the anti-aging, like IV therapies and different things, and chiropractic, physical therapy, all this kind of
Acupuncture,
stuff.
etc. Yeah.
Acupuncture, it's a little bit less expensive. The infusion stuff is a lot less expensive from what I hear. And so I love that I can afford to do that here, whereas in the States, it would have on our previous, income, I wouldn't have been able to do that as much. Um, but like, and like to go to the doctor, like to go to a specialist, it costs around $80 to go. If you have like, let's
That's
say,
it?
yeah, and this is not
Wow.
that's like the most expensive. Like if you go to, let's say you have a stomach bug and it's 9:30 at night. This happened. My daughter was like dealing with some stomach problems, and I was like, I'm gonna take her to the urgent care, which was essentially just the emergency room, but it was more like both.
Hmm.
And I saw someone and got which prescriptions to get for $20.
Wow.
And then I went to the pharmacy and got the medicines and everything was fine. And So like you can, and that's 20, that was an emergency. Like you can go to an urgent, like a regular urgent care, like during regular office hours, and it would cost you like $10.
Mm,
So like you can do out of pocket stuff. You can, and you can have like a for international or for Mexico, they have like, the type of plan where it's like worst case scenario, you have, a $5,000 deductible or whatever. They have that kind of
right.
stuff too. But if you're older and you don't you want to use like your really great plan from the States, that's where it gets a little bit, like, if you're managing some really bad chronic illnesses or whatever, that might be an issue that you want to consider,
Is
right?
there,
Because
do they have socialized medicine there, like that you can sign up for?
they do, but you don't want to
No,
do
okay, gotcha.
that. That's everything I've heard. Is like, don't do that. You want to go to the private hospitals.
Right.
So
So there's a private program that you can go to, which is
yeah, and
really
they're
good.
everywhere. It's almost harder to find the socialized ones. You have to go into the city or this one place for the whole zone,
Yeah.
instead of like, but most of them are private. But depending on the issue, the price could add up. There is my friend told me about a thing, her because her mother lived here for a little while, and there's like an airlift insurance where you can be airlifted to a hospital.
Hmm.
You could like get a jet right away to a like the closest hospital if you really had an emergency needed to go. So
Wow.
that's kind of a good insurance to have if you're, let's say you're in your, upper years and maybe you're managing something or something, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So,
So is
but
it,
yeah,
did you find, so you found that healthcare do you find it better than the States or about the same?
it
Just
depends.
just less expensive.
It's less expensive, you know, is it better? Well, you know what? If you asked me this 2 weeks ago, I'd be like, yes, better. But but actually
You had
last
an
week,
experience, I'm guessing.
no, I didn't have like a personal like me, but my parents are dealing with some things, and I suggested, hey, you know what? Don't you need second opinions? You need to use your insurance because they have like the premium plan, but they're living
Right.
here right now. And I said, we went to Los Angeles to see my in-laws, and I said, come with, and you're going to go to Cedars-Sinai. And I have a friend, my sister-in-law's friend, blah blah blah, knows this really great doctor that they were going to be able to see. And when I went there, I was like, whoa, like this is premium top tier healthcare.
Hmm.
It's like next level. Like those people are like doing the studies, like they're paying for the studies. So like all the doctors that I sat in with on appointments, they're like, well, there was a study last year that we funded, blah blah blah. I'm like, wow, okay, wow. But
Nice.
that's not an example of every single place in the whole United States. And here in my own experience, I've had great experience with doctors. But I've also had some that I'm like, meh, could have been better. And same in the States.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
it's very it's very mixed. Not everybody is
it
great
is.
everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about your Substack for a little bit. What do
Sure.
you do? What is your Substack all about?
My Substack is all about like if you're recreating yourself, if you're reinventing and you want to use your expertise and build an audience, I show you how to do that with your words using Substack. So setting up your Substack, doing it with notes, long form, and then eventually, like I haven't talked about this too much yet since I'm just pretty much getting started, but how to monetize in a way that like makes sense. That's not
Hmm.
just here's another post that's behind a paywall. So it's like the whole package, but then using Substack as the medium of doing it. So like say you're for example, I have a friend who's an astrologer, and
Hmm.
she was a musician in her previous career, but she really loves astrology and she's really good at it. And I'm trying to convince her. I mean, I'm
You're
not
convincing
really
again. Look
trying
out.
to convince her. Yeah, exactly. But I told her, like I saw her last night, I was like, this will be a perfect outlet for you because you could talk about, she wants to talk about relationship astrology. And that's what she does in her life. Like she'll be like, watch out, Venus is on your Mars or whatever the hell she says. And I'm like, is that why I feel like shit? She'll be like,
Venus is
yeah.
rising, Mars is descending,
Yeah,
or
like
whatever those
she
things
tells
are.
me this every day, and I'm still like, what? Wait, which one is it? But I do think it's legit, and
Yeah.
it's cool. But I'm like, you could post about that and build your audience there, and do your videos and do whatever you want, and she would be reinventing, and it's about building an audience. It's like what we talked about before with like, you want to have a course? Okay, join my course about courses. And then you get to the module one, send an email to your list. It's about having the assets that you
Yeah.
need to build the income that you really want and the
Yeah.
career that you really want, especially in the second act. That's why I call it the second act strategist, because I kind of think of it as like, you've had your first career that you chose probably in your 20s, and
Yeah.
we grow a lot.
You may not have even chosen it. You may have
It's
just
true.
fallen into it because it's kind of like, well, I really want to play music, but I got to do this to make money. So
Yeah.
so you end up in a career where you may not enjoy what you've been doing, and then you've been doing that for 40 years or whatever, or
Yes.
30, 40 years, and you're like, okay, now it's time for me to do this. Now, the people who you work with, do they usually are they usually coming off of something like there's something where that walloped them, like a divorce or death or something, or is it just anybody who's just unhappy with where they are in life?
Well, sometimes one of my clients she's already a coach. So she's working on building out her audience. She's built up a practice from word of mouth and from different social medias. And so she's working on building her presence on Substack. A lot of people are doing that too out of life experience, right? Like, it's time to talk about this experience that they had, maybe
Mm,
from divorce and co-parenting and stuff like that. Or, you know, actually, I had a client, I helped her with her podcast. She's on Substack too, but she's mostly focusing on her podcast. But she's been a physical therapist for like 25 years. But
wow.
she's realizing, okay, I need an online audience so I can start to evolve my business from just seeing patients all the time to like teaching some of my areas of expertise and self improvement and managing stress and just different things that she already helps her clients with one at a time. She's like, I have a framework and I have these other things. How am I going to get it out there in the world unless I have an audience for it? So that's what she's building now. So that's what I think a lot of people, a lot of times it's work they already do and they're like, how can I make it bigger?
Right. Right.
How can I expand it?
Or make it location independent, right? Because you, like you're saying, you
Yes.
like your music is like you have to go to gigs and you have to
Yeah.
teach in person. How do you move this online, or how do you
Yeah.
take what you've been doing and turn it into something that you can do from anywhere in the world,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And so I just feel like if you have an audience, if you have a list, which is what you're building on Substack, you're building a list. It's like
But
it's the
you
golden
start with
ticket.
people who start from zero, though, right? That's also a thing, right?
Yeah, most of the people that I'm finding that are subscribing are just starting on Substack and just starting from zero.
Yeah.
They're not like people who are like, I have a list of, well, actually, someone that I that's in my paid tier, she has a huge following on YouTube and she wants to start to move towards Substack. Um, so yeah, like, but that's more rare that
Yeah.
someone,
No,
has already
that's
done it.
ideal. I think we need more people who actually can start from scratch, because you have
Yeah.
people who have been doing a job. They're about technical enough to read something on Substack and use Facebook and a few other things, but they don't know all of the intricacies of what you need to do to grow an audience. But
Right.
and that's, I think you need to
And
start with
that's the
people
art form that I
who know
love.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the art form I love to talk about because you can't grow an audience just by saying whatever
Yeah.
and doing it randomly, And so some people get mad at me though in the comments and stuff. They'll be like, I just want to say what I want to say. And I'm like, then do that. I'm not forcing you.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's the thing. It's like people go, they do that. They say what they want to say. They treat it like a diary. And then they wonder, why don't I have 1,000 subscribers?
Mm-hmm.
That's because you put your diary up there. Not everybody wants to read your diary, no
Right.
matter how compelling it is,
Right.
right? I mean, there's people, so you have to look at it from a, what are you getting out of this? And I think that's what, if I were starting Substack from scratch, I would
Yeah.
have some plan. I would say, do I want to use this as my diary? Do I want to use this to as something that eventually makes me some money? Do I want to do, like, you have to have a little bit of a
Yes.
plan, because I think some people just
Yes.
jump into Substack thinking, oh, I'm just going to throw everything out there and then I can turn it into money. And it's
Right.
not that kind of a platform. You can't just turn your passions monetize your passions. I mean,
Agree.
it's going towards that, but it's not quite there yet. So
Right. I mean, I don't think there's a platform in the world that all you do is show up and someone's like, here's money. You have to, you have
Not
to,
yet. It's
not
coming.
yet, but I mean, maybe some, I guess, if you're like taking off your clothes, but we won't
Well,
go there
yeah,
in that
see,
means
there are
that's a different
platforms
age.
like that. There are.
I know. But you still have to do something. So like, yeah, I think that's
Depends on
true.
what your passions are, right?
Yeah. But I do think that what you're saying is true. It's like you have to think about what the person that you want to help, what do they want? Because
Yeah,
if you tap into that, then you're not going to be trying to convince them of something that they don't
yeah,
already want.
yeah.
If they
It's like
already
what I,
want,
it's like what I was trying to say before. Is like people are asking like how should you write, right? And it's like a
mhm.
Venn diagram. So that one circle is what I want to write, and the other circle is what people want to read, right? And
Yeah,
what you want to do is you want to be in that middle space
yeah,
where both of those things align, because you could be way over here. You could be like, oh, I'm talking about cozy times with my puppy. Well, maybe some people want to read about cozy times with your puppy, but not everybody, right? So
yes.
depends on the size
Because
of
then what does
audience
it
you're looking
have to
for.
do with them? So like,
Yeah,
if I use the astrology example, like my friend, okay, if she comes on and she's like, the moon in Leo means blah blah blah. You're like, okay, well, some people might like that. But if you
yeah,
say, here's the reason why you don't get along with your brother-in-law,
right.
like, why? I've been wanting to know this for years. Tell me.
She's got the insights. She's got the insight.
Yes, she does. She actually does. And when she tells me this stuff, I'm like, how did you know that? Like, how it's true. And so, like, when she positions her expertise in a way that makes someone go, wait, what? Tell me that again. I want to hear this. Let's go deeper.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
yeah, yeah. And the other thing you're mentioning, which I completely agree with, is the convincing part. So it's kind of like a bit of innovation, right? So if you are too innovative with the thing that you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to teach people what you're doing. So you have to say, I'm going to do this really innovative thing. And a lot of people are like, wait, what? I don't understand that. So
Yeah.
explain to me. So you spend a lot of time explaining to people why this is a good thing. And and then once you're established, whether you do well or not, somebody else will come along and say, oh, you've already explained this thing. I'm going to come along and take all your customers, right? So the fast follower, the not the initial company that does the thing, those aren't usually the ones that win. The ones that come in later and improve the thing to an already existing audience,
Yes.
that's usually who does the best.
Yes, exactly. And I do think too, it's like related to that, like if you get stuck in the I need to grow more first, so I'm only going to just keep putting out free content that shows what I teach. And then someone else says, well, here, I'm going to teach you directly one on one how to do it. Come over here and I'll show you. And they get paid and they go and do it.
Yeah,
And you missed out on that opportunity because you're like, I need 10,000 people before I can make an offer.
yeah. Well, that's
So
the other
I'm,
thing that a lot of these gurus don't talk about, especially the middle gurus. It's like, what percentage of your income actually comes from digital products that you sell? Probably 5%, and then the rest is one-on-one coaching systems. That it's like
mm-hmm.
specific consulting. One-on-one consulting still makes more money than anything, because
Yeah,
it's time. You're buying somebody's time. I could charge $500 an hour to talk to somebody face to face, or I could sell them a $5 ebook, right?
yeah.
So I think that's where
But which one
they
are you going
don't.
to get faster results on? So
Well,
it's
which one?
true.
Like, exactly. So you have to say, if I have a sort of an array of offerings, and if you look at if these people were really honest about what brings the money in, it's not the $5 digital product, it's the $500 coaching session.
Yes, and if you take it back to Substack here, there's a lot of people are offering things on and off Substack. So
Yeah,
maybe you opt in for their $5 a month thing, but then later you're going to find out they have, a $500 course that teaches the whole thing or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And that's fine.
exactly.
But but that's true. Like if you have a small audience, the fastest way to the most income is a higher tickets thing. And then if you have a big audience, now you can sell a $5 ebook and or a $5 membership, and maybe you have a chance at making a living wage,
Yeah,
if you want to do that. But it's true. It's like you're right. They're not always transparent. You find that out later. Like you see the numbers and you go, oh wow, they're making like a ton of money from just a Substack where all they have to do is post and then they get tons of money. But then you dig deeper and you see that they're selling other things and
yeah. Or they do
coaching and
ghostwriting or whatever. There's other things that contribute
yeah.
to it.
And
Yeah.
that's cool, but it's true. It's like you can't just flip on paid and now you're going to make 10,000 a month if you
Yeah.
have X
If
amount of
only.
subscribers.
If
If
only.
only. I know. I know. But I do think that people are craving, as long as we're talking about like AI and what the future of digital courses and stuff, I think people will be craving more interaction, more connection.
Oh
Or
yeah.
like, you help me do this because I can't read just a post and then just take off and go and figure everything out. It
Exactly.
has to
And
be
things like
some real
this.
time.
Things like
Yeah,
this, like lives, because that's the thing. It's like, how do you combat AI? Well, you get a couple of people, a couple of humans into a room, and you have them talking to each other
yeah,
live to everybody who's out there, right? So that
exactly.
we can't do this in AI, and not yet, at least. My avatar is not available.
Oh my God. Have you ever heard those horrible AI conversations and they sound like so forced?
Oh
And you'll
yeah,
hear, oh, it's so gross. And you hear the person, exactly. Well, this blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, how is this even happening?
I know it's not even human. It's terrible.
It's
Well,
not.
I'm sorry, I've got to wrap things up. So this
Yes,
has been fantastic. I love it. We should do it again.
for
And
sure.
so if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
DM me on Substack. That's a great way to do it. Or check
Hmm.
out my profile on Substack would just be substack.com/ my name. I don't know. I think you can click on this,
Are you
but
your
I have
name?
some.
Your name.substack.com, I think, right?
I think so. And there's
Yeah.
a couple of little freebies that I've made for people if they want to check out like some stuff about what I talk about creating content using a content pillar framework. So that's free right now, as well as a little guide on how to interact and connect with people on Substack. So those are a couple freebies plus a lot of stuff that's there in my archive of things to read. So
I love it. So everybody go there.
yeah.
Everybody subscribe. Everybody check it all out. So this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Chris. This has
We'll
been
do this
great.
again. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.